like and subscribe. Now.
What is the weirdest fact you know? Woodpeckers' tongues wrap around their brain to cushion them from a concussion when they peck against tree trunks. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, Savoy cabbage, kohlrabi, and guylan are all the same species of plant Brassica oleracea, just bred to enhance different parts of the plant. Frederick Bauer, the inventor of the Pringles can, is buried in one. Whichever one of us finds him in the winning can gets to tour the Pringles factory. Is he cremated or buried in a giant Pringles can? I feel stupid for not even thinking of cremation. I just thought damn must be a biggest can, cut up and stuffed in a normal sized one. Most of the camels of Saudi Arabia are imported from Australia. The largest wild population of camels is also in Australia. We don't really know who the inventor of the fire hydrant is, because the patent was destroyed in a fire. Homer, Springfield's never had a hurricane in recorded history. Lisa, the records only go back to the 70s when the Hall of Records was mysteriously blown away. Volkswagen makes a currywurst and it has its own original part number. Number 199 398 500. A fungi grows next to the highly radioactive elephant's foot in the Chernobyl reactor. It feeds off the gamma rays emitted by the nuclear fuel in a process known as radiosynthesis. If you were exposed to similar levels of radiation, you would have a lethal dose in 3 minutes. Radiotrophic fungus was first discovered at the Chernobyl site in 1991. Just after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the start of internationally aided cleanup/containment efforts. Not so sure about right next to the elephant's foot. But it was definitely found growing in large, flourishing colonies all throughout the site's cooling water supply. This fungus appears to use melanin, the same dark brown pigment that gives humans all their various normal skin tones, except in much higher concentrations to power sugar-producing reactions by deriving energy from nuclear decay, the same way plants and cyanobacteria use the green pigment chlorophyll to synthesize sugars by deriving energy from sun, light. Basically, this stuff is a mold colony that has the most extreme tan ever, and uses it to eat radiation. Similar fungi have been found accumulated on the exterior hulls of low-orbit spacecraft. And experiments were recently, 2018 to 2019, conducted to begin investigating if the stuff could be used as shielding to protect astronauts from solar/cosmic radiation. Apparently, results were promising. Imagine going into space in a mushroom suit. Sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins can. They can also die of starvation with a full stomach. Interesting. How so? Apparently some can be trained to work at the DMV. That is weird. Actually makes sense though. They move so dang slow. They would probably drown before reaching the surface of the water. If they couldn't hold their breath for a long time. Turtles can breathe through their butts. The man who invented the Match.com website lost his wife to a man she met on Match.com. Titanic was fitted with microphones for receiving underwater bell signals. With this system, the sound of submarine bells was received through the hull of the vessel. Submarine bells, used as fog signals, were located on lightships, at lighthouses, and even on some specially equipped buoys. They were actuated by electric signals, compressed air, or simply by wave motion. Titanic had 2 submarine microphones on her hull, one on each side. These were the ears of the ship. By switching between the port and starboard microphones and comparing the volume of the bells, the navigation officer could determine the direction to the navigation aid. Sound travels much further through water than through air. These bells could be heard over 15 miles away through the headset. A pretty cool way of navigating at a time when GPS and radar didn't yet exist. Still couldn't detect the iceberg sheet. You know what though? The pools on the Titanic are still full to this day. When male honeybees orgasm, their penises explode with a pop, audible to human ears. And when winter comes, the worker bees, which are all female, kick the male bees out to die in the cold because they do nothing other than mate with the queen, and the queen can make more even if she is new and unmated. She needs to mate in order to make more female bees. I did not know that. Doorknobs that are made out of brass can disinfect itself in about 8 hours. Copper has the same effect. This early study published in April 2020 demonstrates the SARS-CoV-2 virus particles became non-viable after 4 hours on copper surfaces. Brass disinfected itself because it's a copper alloy. Koalas have fingerprints that are very close to human fingerprints. There apparently have been several break-in in Australia by the same person based off fingerprint evidence. Turned out to be a koala that was responsible for all of these. If you want to paint a violin red, you have to use a naphthol or pyrrole red, as a cadmium red pigment is too heavy and will alter the sound. I've never thought about the weight of paint before. It adds up. The first 2 space shuttle external tanks were painted white. The external tanks ended up weighing 600 pounds more than the unpainted ones. An average storm cloud weighs about 47,627,199 kilograms, but is supported by even more air. The spinal cord has the consistency of a ripe banana. When caterpillars make their chrysalises, they don't just grow, wings change. They dissolve completely into goo, which then reforms into the butterfly. Better yet, if you train the caterpillars to dislike certain stimuli, the resulting butterflies retain that memory, will avoid the same stimuli. I don't have a source to hand, but I asked a relative who works a lot around butterflies. She said that it has actually been shown that they retain some structure during metamorphosis, including their nervous system, which explains the memory retention. That's less terrifying to me. Also, your username makes me feel like you know a thing or two about turning into a liquid. Thank you. Anglerfish mate by the male biting the female's abdomen. Over time, the male is absorbed and linked to the female's circulatory system, while the male basically melts into a parasite-looking growth that is actually nothing but testicles, which the female will use when she's ready. Weird enough for you? I'll just leave this here. Tapirs' penises are not only very large relative to body length, but they are also prehensile, i.e., they can grip and grab. What the literal F? You think that is a literal F? They mark territory by randomly coming on things. Not to mention the males are the size of a donkey. The weight of all of ants on the planet is equal to the weight of all humans on the planet. Great white sharks have never been seen mating. Ever. By anyone. Zero record made by a human. Strange considering what a mighty presence they have on humans. This reminds me of a recent episode of the Memory Palace podcast. It's called Keyhole and it's about whales. The title comes from a scientist who said studying these large underwater creatures is like studying humans through a keyhole. You only get the bits that happen as they pass. How do they know? No one's ever asked me if I've seen great white sharks mating. The Iron Maiden was never a torture device. Some archaeologist a couple hundred years ago just found an old metal coffin that happened to have metal spikes by it. And he just assumed that the spikes belonged on the door of the coffin. A whale's fart bubble is so big that you could fit a Volkswagen inside of it. The fart bubble. Not the whale. Most rune stones erected by Norsemen were erected by Christians. And they're often decorated with Christian crosses. Runic writing also continued for centuries after conversion. So it's not uncommon to see things like "God help his soul" on rune stones. It might not be so weird if one's intimately familiar with the topic. But I think a lot of people just seem to associate runic writing with paganism. One of the most famous runestones is literally Harold Bluetooth bragging about turning the Danes Christian. If it was not for some gut bacteria, we would fart in colors. The first American film to drop an F-bomb was MASH, M\A\S*8, MAS*8. I just heard this one on No Such Thing as a Fish, so I don't know if it's true. But apparently if you play Tetris for 20 minutes within 6 hours after a traumatic car accident, you'll be 62% less likely to have PTSD like memories of the event. I wonder if this is because the eye movements you make during Tetris are similar to a technique used in EMDR. That's exactly what I was thinking. Really interesting stuff. I've heard similar things. Soldiers returning from patrols reported less symptoms of PTSD when they could play video games or do coloring books. I'm paraphrasing, so don't quote me. Returns home from patrol, powers up the Xbox, hops on cop. That divider at grocery stores that separates stuff on the conveyor belt is called a sprocket. If you type Illuminati backwards on your search bar, along with .com, itanamuli.com, it'll take you straight to the NSA website. I read that as NASA and was thinking, that doesn't make much sense. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, published a book in 1922 about how fairies are real based on some pictures of fairies deemed authentic by an expert. Those fairies were cut out of a children's picture book and photographed in the garden by two girls. The noises the raptors made in Jurassic Park were actually turtles effing. I was wondering why I kept getting random boners during that movie. Raphael. You put yogurt in someone's butthole to speed up decomposition. I do. Admitting it is the first step to recovery. Pro tip: only works on dead bodies. Living ones just get upset. I'm not allowed in that grocery store anymore. Wombats poop in cubes, then use the poop cubes to build little walls. Huh. Who would have thought I have something in common with wombats? Do they also suffer from erectile dysfunction? That there was a NASA-funded project in the 60s to teach dolphins to speak English, which managed to involve giving a dolphin handjobs and LSD. Damn, I wish I was a dolphin. I know. It's hard to find good real LSD these days. Dolphin handjobs, I bet they were terrible at that. You'd think they'd at least give those jobs to animals with hands. The CIA spent nearly 5 years and $10 million to make a covered spy cat with implanted microphones to eavesdrop on the Soviets. It was run over and killed by a car on its first mission. I heard the cat made it back safe after a failed mission and had the microphones removed. Update: apparently it was claimed the cat was hit by a car back in 1960 during its first mission. But in 2013 a guy who oversaw the project disputed that, saying the cat was too difficult to train and had the hardware removed, living a long and happy life afterwards. You think they had only one? I haven't looked into it. But with that KJND of money they could have had, I don't know, 3 cats? Let's see. The world's shortest war was over in 38 minutes. The longest war was over 300 years. The reason banana flavored candy doesn't taste like bananas is because the banana we eat today is not the same as the one the flavor was created to mimic. The banana fact is interesting because I've always liked the artificial flavor more than bananas taste. So I guess I would have liked the banana that's now nearly almost wiped out. The bananas we eat today are a subspecies called Cavendish. A fungus wiped out the banana species the candies are mimicking. The skin between muscle and fat is called fascia and looks like a cobweb when pulled from those sections. Well, you shouldn't be pulling on it. You'll go blind if you do it too much. Coconuts kill 103 people a year. The same coconuts. They've developed a taste for human flesh. The term "drink the Kool-Aid" is historically incorrect. Jim Jones used Flavor Aid. What a cheapskate. I know. What's even the point of saving that money? Not like he was gonna need it. Oh. I have a Jim Jones fun fact. Before he started the People's Temple, he sold monkeys door to door in Indiana. As one does. You have a ball sack because you need to have your balls at 34 degrees Celsius to produce sperm, but your body is 37 degrees. The sack keeps them farther away. That's also why your balls shrivel when you are cold. Gotta maintain homeostasis. So your sperm are finished while the rest of you is human. There is a species of penguins called Adelie penguins in Antarctica that are so horny they will screw anything. Examples include female penguins, male penguins, injured penguins, dead botus, dead fish, the freaking ground. Basically anything that moves or doesn't move. Babies don't have kneecaps. LMAO effing dweebs. All mammals over 3 kilograms, 6.5 pounds, pee for an average of 21 seconds with a full bladder, independent of body size. From a 2014 paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, using high-speed videography and flow rate measurement obtained at Zoo Atlanta, we discover that all mammals above 3 kilograms in weight empty their bladders over nearly constant duration of 2113s. This feat is possible because larger animals have longer urethras and thus higher gravitational force and higher flow speed. Smaller mammals are challenged during urination by high viscous and capillary forces that limit their urine to single drops. Our findings reveal that the urethra is a flow-enhancing device, enabling the urinary system to be scaled up by a factor of 3,600 in volume without compromising its function. This study may help to diagnose urinary problems in animals as well as inspire the design of scalable hydrodynamic systems based on those in nature. Ever seen an elephant piss at the zoo? It's friggin' impressive. No, but I've seen a rhino press its eye up to the enclosure's bars. Rip a loud fart whose smell reached us pretty quickly and immediately shat through the enclosure bars, basically cutting the turds like wire through cheese. Female bedbugs lack a genital cavity, so the male bedbug has to literally stab his dick into the female bedbug's stomach, and then when they're done screwing, that's it. But what makes it even more interesting is that bedbugs are unable to tell the difference between other male and female bedbugs. Use your imagination a little for that one. Many species of snails and slugs are hermaphroditic, possessing fully functional male and female reproductive characteristics, and go about a similar process. When mating, two males will wrestle each other, joust with their penises. The loser of this contest becomes the female in the encounter, gets stabbed by the winner's dick, and is impregnated. New gay Pornhub series, penis justing. Loser becomes bottom. Well, F-mate stab. Hippopotamus sweat is pink. Your anus comprises either 35 or 37 creases, resulting in a pattern as unique as your fingertips. This discovery, first made by Salvador Dali, allowed for the development of an anus-examining smart toilet. On the same topic, it turns out that humans are deuterostomies. This means that at the start of its development, an embryo goes through a stage during which its tissue folds back over itself, creating something called a blastopore. As maturation continues, this blastopore becomes the anus. In short, you can make the argument that every person is an overgrown, and unique, a-hole. This discovery first made by Salvador Dali. Of course he did. What? Dali neck deep in anus? Okay, but like, just exactly how many buttholes was Dali looking at on a daily basis to come to this conclusion? Well, he and his wife frequently participated in orgies, so he probably gathered some data that way. And did they ever go, hey, I think I've seen this one before, only to be proven incorrect? Every Tuesday the master gave some 50 students free tuition and corrected their sketches, NSFW link. For Dali, the body no longer had any secrets. He had devised a special procedure, which interested Roger Peyerfit greatly, to ensure that a woman on all fours would present her anus to greatest advantage. He would place a spirit level on her back, and when the air bubble was precisely in the middle, he claimed, her anus would flower in its full glory. On occasions, he would ask female visitors to sit on a bed of moist clay with their buttocks parted. In order to take an impression of their orifices, he would subsequently frame the impressions, adding the names of the ladies in question. Only the backsides of identical twins had exactly the same pattern and number of creases. He conducted experiments to substantiate his claim, and made the impressions of twins' behinds into candelabra. Wait. So I can in theory make my phone super secure by requiring my anus to unlock it instead of my fingerprint? Yup. It works with both Touch ID for fingerprints and the 3D scanning Face ID. There are more ways to shuffle a deck of cards than there are atoms on Earth. You can arrange a deck of cards into a new unique order once a second since the Big Bang, and you wouldn't even be 1% of the way through all possible combos today. Like, Not even close to 1%. I like Vsauce's analogy. If you were to measure the time to count 52 factorial seconds. First start at Earth's equator. Every billion years that goes by. Take one step forward. Once you walk completely around the Earth. Take a drop of water out of the Pacific Ocean and repeat. Once the ocean is dry. Set down one sheet of paper. Refill the ocean. And repeat the whole process again. Once the stack of sheets of paper reaches the sun. Knock it down and repeat the whole process again. Once you do that about 1,000 times. You'd be almost a third of the way to being done counting. Related to this. Every time you shuffle a deck of cards you are almost certain to have created an order never before seen in the history of the world. The dot on top of an INAJ is called a tittle. Technically speaking, a male ballet dancer is a ballerino. Also, a single strand of spaghetti is a spaghetto. Spaghetto is also my favorite term for a rough Italian neighborhood. In Spaghetto is my favorite Elvis song. The Stegosaurus was extinct for about 90 million years before Tyrannosaurus showed up. And the Tyrannosaurus has been extinct for about 65 million years. We are much closer in time to the T-Rex than the T-Rex was to Stegosaurus. Also, Cleopatra was born closer to our time than she was to the building of the pyramids. Our perception of time is funny. Oh. And adding on to this, Oxford University has been around since 1096, earliest evidence of teaching there. In 1697, Martín de Ursúa launched an assault on the Itza capital Najapatan and the last independent Maya city fell to the Spanish. Oxford University and the Maya civilization coexisted for about 600 years. The last widow of an American Civil War veteran died last year. No. I didn't type that wrong. I feel like we categorize things into groups based on similar events. Then we imagine there's a massive time difference between the groups. Woolly mammoths still roamed the earth when the pyramids were being built. Sharks are older than trees. A lot older. 40 million years older. Trees as we familiarly know them today, a primary trunk. Large height. Crown of leaves or fronds didn't appear on the planet until the late Devonian period. Some 360 million years ago. You might be surprised to learn that sharks are older than trees as they've been around for at least 400 million years. Weirder. I understand all coal formed during the time after trees appeared. But before the bacteria that breaks them down after they fell. No new coal has formed in a very long time. 100 million years? It's a very weird thought to me that there was a time before decay. Time Before Decay sounds like an album. Macaulay Culkin is a classically trained ballet dancer. Ballerina refers to a specific female role in a company. The male equivalent is danseur, alternatively, ballerino. The average human erection has roughly about 130 ml of blood in it, while the average rabbit has about 126 ml in its entire body. So, there is more blood in your boner than in a bunny. Also, did you know that a rabbit used to die every time a lady needed a pregnancy test? I knew this, but only because of the lines from that Aerosmith song had me curious a few years back, so I googled. Can't catch me 'cause the rabbit done died. Heck, 293 cells. A scientist named Alexander E.B. in Netherlands made immortal cells from the liver of an aborted human fetus in the 70s. Those cells have been producing our vaccines for the last 50 years. I don't mean to spread this as misinformation, or as any correlation to the current pandemic. It's just a super weird fact I knew. This is gonna get NSFW, but anyway, the scar that guys have between their legs that connects the scrotum to the anus. That was supposed to be the vagina. That closed up when we developed as a fetus. The average length of a whale vagina is 21 centimeters or 8.2 inches. The Schwarzschild radius of a human is 10 to the minus 23 power centimeters. That means that if an average-sized human is pressed into a space with a radius of 0.0000000000000000000000000000001 centimeters, they'd become a black hole. Time to turn myself into a black hole. Most Irish flags are wrong. Here's why: they're made in Chinese factories in large numbers and made to the most common flag size 2:3 length ratio. But the Irish flag is a 1:2 ratio. We've got a longer than usual flag, but not many flag factories, so most flags here are wrong. But that's kind of common. Any American flags produced in those same factories are wrong too. In 2014, a man in the Italian town called Bra was actually arrested for stealing bras. If you're cold and have shivers but your testicles are hanging low, you have a fever. What if you don't have testicles? Then you're just cold all the time. What if you can swing them to and fro, or tie them in a knot, or tie them in a bow? You're still pretty healthy. Now if you can swing